Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another chat with the Quit Sugar Summit and myself, Danielle Dame, and Mike Collins. We're recording this for you today, not able to go live because we are having some fun with technology. It does not want to. I've actually been struggling all morning with some technology issues. So maybe it's the rain here. I don't know, but we're doing this and we're going to have a great chat here and then obviously upload it for you guys all to check out. And in the future, we'll hope all the live stuff works out. How's it going, Mike?
It's going well. I'm glad you're doing it because if I were doing it, we'd never even have one. So we're doing pretty good. We're ahead of the 8 ball here.
Yeah, we've got a backup plan. We can always record these and upload them. I mean, obviously we love being live with all of you, and that is the point of this, to be interacting and asking questions and, not being just the two of us. We want to hang out with all of you, live in real time. But this week, this is what's gonna happen. It's such an example of just going with the flow. And actually, I love kind of where this is going intuitively, like in my journey, even with sugar and with learning to just flow with life and go with the flow and not take things so seriously. I mean, back in the day, something like this, tech problems would totally cause me to be anxious and stressed. And then right after I'd be going for the donuts and eating something, right, to cope with all those emotions. And that's what so many of us do, right? When things get stressful or things don't work out, it's like, oh my goodness, food. And
that's how we met. Remember, you asked me to do a thing about the emotional part of this, and I'm like, oh my God, a sugar educator that's talking the real deal here. And I was like, yeah, sure, no problem. And, the more I get into this, Danny, the more I realize that this is exactly what's going on. And I get it closer to understanding that this is so close to a substance use disorder. And that is like a common tenet in the world of recovery, that people stop growing emotionally when they start using the drug of choice. Now, then you put that together with the idea that we started using this product in the womb, maybe, but definitely at 1 year old. Rebuilding our emotional management systems, our emotional management tools, our emotional management processes, man, it's a big job. And, once people cross that bridge, they never look back. So, yeah, it's any upset will do it. It doesn't need to be a death or trauma, just like late for the bus, for God's sakes, and you're into the 7-Eleven, it's like.
Totally. Or one person says something mean to you, or you're late. Yeah, exactly. Late for something, or it's crazy. And I love that was something. And actually, people might be really curious to actually hear more about that story.
I don't know if it's your end, Danny, or mine, but you just went way down in volume. I don't know if.
Oh no, can you hear me okay now?
No, you're still pretty low.
Try turning me up. See what happens. I don't know.
I can hear you, but just barely. Can you hear me normally? My volume sound normal?
Okay, let me pause.
Yeah, no, you sound very light.
I'm going to pause this, and we're going to figure it out and come back. So the gifts of being able to record this. Okay, we're back. Hopefully the volume has figured itself out. We did a little behind the scenes. But I think people would really love to maybe hear more about that, because that's really interesting that you brought up, like, how did we meet? Right? A lot of people, I know people from last year who kind of followed the Quit Sugar Summit, assumed that we've been working together for years. And actually the fact of it is,
right,
Mike and I have our own businesses and we come together and support, obviously, for this summit. It was 3 years ago. I can't even remember now, 2 or 3 years ago, I realized that, this epidemic with sugar is something that we need more people speaking out about. We need to band together. And what I actually did was started kind of looking out to people, leading in this space. And that's how I found you, Mike. I think I found you on Instagram or something. Just loved what you were doing. I've been following you for a while as inspiration for my own work. And I said, you know what, I'm just going to reach out and see if he wants to connect. And that was kind of the start of the whole thing. And we got on a Zoom and we connected, and really, I think our view on the whole industry and sugar really aligned. And from there, we just decided to start, working together and supporting each other in this, which is.
We should dig that interview out, because that would really turn out good.
It was.
That really did turn out good.
On my Facebook page, I think. I still have it somewhere.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. I mean, it was, finally, I mean, I've been pounding this drum for a long time about the emotional, aspect of this. And everybody's always talking about the, less, this kind of food, that kind of food, this kind of diet, this kind of, keto, vegetarian, more exercise, all this stupid stuff, right? And they all get there, you know, they get 10, 15, 20, 30, 50 days in, whatever. Then they all go back, you know, because then some life circumstance hits them, or they start to remember stuff because now they don't have their crutch. They don't have their emotional, you know, their emotional,
Band-Aid.
What's the right word? Band-Aid. There you go. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. They don't have their emotional Band-Aid to stop the feelings from coming up. And so, yeah, I mean, it's just every single day we have, you know, so many people in our forums and groups that just, they say, now I get it. And then it's like a light bulb goes on because, and I'm talking about people that know about this stuff, people in recovery from other stuff. I'm talking about the average person. I'm talking about anybody who gets some abstinence and then starts to realize they've got to refigure, rejigger, reconfigure their emotional management systems, how they deal with emotions, right?
Yeah.
And they don't have the tools. They really don't have the tools because sugar has been so prevalent in their life for so long and such an easy fix to tamp down hurt, pain, guilt, worry, fear. They end up, you know, they just, when they're like in a deer in the headlight, they're in shock when they don't have it anymore. And the only thing that their body is craving is that, please give me this little bit of respite from this anxiety or whatever it is. And they don't know how to deal with it in another fashion. So when they figure that out, it's a walk in the park at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, this is such a huge topic. I love it. This is literally like the base of all the work that I do with my clients. And what I've actually seen is there's the part of like relearning how to actually process all those, what I call uncomfortable emotions that come up. Cause those are usually the triggers. I mean, joy and celebration are usually triggers as well, but it's usually the uncomfortable ones. Like you mentioned, the anxiety, the grief, the depression, the daily stress, right? In the world that we live in right now. And really ground zero with that. And I could talk forever on this, but of course we'll try to keep it concise, is the fact that we've not been taught how to feel. Like we live in a society where we're taught it's not okay to be emotional. It's not okay to feel. It's not good to feel those things. So we start labeling these emotions as negative or bad. And when it really comes to the emotional conversation at a deep level, like we have to feel all the emotions to be a healthy, happy human being. So we need to find a way. And this is the tricky part for a lot of people. All of my clients, literally ground zero, learning to feel again. Like it's almost like we've put on this armor, this wall, like put on a brave face, tough it out, you know, suck it up, stop crying, like whatever we were told as children. I know I was always told I'm too sensitive to tough it up, you know, so we start climbing up and building these belief systems that it's bad to be emotional, that, you know, feeling stressed is a bad thing and we shouldn't feel it. So when we start to believe we shouldn't feel these emotions, what do? Is we're trained right from, you know, we're 1 year old to numb out, to escape, right? And to do that with food or Netflix or drugs or alcohol or anything that's going to get us out of that current emotional state, right? We begin to run away because we're so uncomfortable feeling stressed or anxious or depressed, when the real healing through this, and I know this is really quick Cole's notes, is to begin to feel again and honor that it's okay to feel stressed. I mean, every week I have moments where I'm feeling really low or anxious or stressed, and now I allow myself to feel those things. And I know that they're an important part of being human, as opposed to freaking out, feeling unsafe in my body because it's not good to feel, and then rushing to try to get a dopamine hit, right? Or get out of it. So, you know, this is the skill I think we all need to relearn, is that we are human, like, you know, beings, you know?
Right. I mean, people, you're 100% right. Is this like, when like the joy part, I like to address a little bit, because people will accentuate the joy of a celebration with the product, right? It'll lift them even more, and an overuse of, or an overdose of, if you will, like a giant piece of cake and a couple pieces, extra piece of cake, because it's a wedding, because it's a party, right? And they're feeling very high, but then they all relate the idea that the next day they're like, almost like they have a hangover, they're low again. And I think when it's just a reordering, a reframing of understanding what the ingestion of the product is doing to them. And then they can make that jump of exactly what you're talking about, where they kind of start to compute when they tell their whole story, when they journal it out, their own experiences daily, what's going on in them today. And they go back a little and do one of our hosts or one of our guests on the summit, Bitten Johnson, amazing woman in Sweden, does all of this work in a little diagnostic tool where they literally graph their entire childhood, their entire life with sugar and other substances, but sugar mostly. And they can really tell where people were accentuating their use and when it was down and up and down. And when they look at it and they really put the story to the graph, they start to understand, and the weight to the graph, because there is weight fluctuations. They start to realize finally that this had very little to do with their diet, very little to do with their exercise, very little to do with all of the common beliefs about weight loss and wellness and diabetes and everything, but it had to do with the graph of their emotions over their lifetime, where their use was high or the use was low, right? Or where they started overusing or whatever, Right. And so it's just an amazing, I mean, it's like this stuff is just coming out of the womb, this idea from other healing modalities and recovery and wellness and all kind of, and the keto, I think, and not that we are a keto or I'm a keto person or whatever, but it has accentuated the growth in this, because what happened when people started to go keto is that they ended up understanding that the sugar was the problem why they couldn't go keto. They couldn't continue the diet because I had a guy, he lost 100 pounds on keto, needed 60 more, needed to lose 60 more. He just couldn't get off the sugar at that point. It's like it did a great thing for his life, for his body, for his weight, for his health. But then he realized, and when he finally clicked about this relationship he had going on with this woman, bam, everything changed. It was just this light bulb that went off. And that happens daily now. There are people that they just finally realize, or more than realize, they accept, right? They give into this idea and just test it for a little bit. They just give themselves some slack to try it out, to maybe, I call it buying into my fantasy. Like they said, just buy into my fantasy for a little, just a little test,
That's a good one.
You'd test drive a car,
right?
wouldn't you? I mean, just test this, right? So,
right. How can you know what's going to work for you and what's not until you actually test it for a bit? And I mean, this whole conversation we're having right now, like, look at how this exact topic, this exact thing has implicated, since COVID hit, right? Everyone is dealing with a lot more intense and amplified emotions. And look at the people who were had done that work, like, me and Mike, for example, right? And we know how to kind of ride these crazy, things that come up.
Ride the wave.
I've had a lot of really heavy days, a lot of, like, I'm feeling all the things in the world too, but it has not at all derailed me. And that's because of the work I've done. But we look in the world right now, we look around at the incredible mass consumption of, even more than before, even, can you believe it, of sugar and processed foods and junk, and people eating their feelings, right? Because they don't know how else to go about it, because we haven't been taught those techniques. And that, unfortunately, we don't live in a society where, they want you to be emotional, because then you're not going to be productive. And that's a whole political issue as well. But, a reminder for everyone watching this, if you're noticing this or any of this is resonating, like, there's nothing, I'm feeling really called to share this, right? There's nothing wrong with you. Okay. There's nothing you've done wrong. There's nothing, you're not broken. This is an unfortunate truth of kind of how we've all been raised. And we get to really decide if we want to acknowledge it and face it and go through, and do this work that Mike and I are talking about, or if you don't, right? And that's your prerogative. You get to choose, if you want to live a long, healthy life or not. That's everyone's choice. I believe that. But I think you're watching this because you don't want that. So, this is just something to be aware of and acknowledge, this is nothing wrong with you. You're not broken. There's nothing that you did wrong. We live in an industry and a time where we have been wronged. And, we have so much power to take back, even just listening to Mike and I here and deciding for yourself, you know what, I'm going to start feeling again and allowing myself to go through this process, as one piece, on the journey to sugar freedom. But
Right.
I think this is an invitation for all of you to just begin this. And of course, reach out to Mike and I if have any questions around this, because this is a big
Yeah, but if they
topic.
would just do the experiment, I mean, you talked about emotional eating, right? And there is a lot of information in the marketplace about this topic of emotional eating, right?
Yeah.
But I think that the error that some of our contemporaries in the emotional eating space, if you will, they talk about, being able to, and they're about 80% right. Okay, they've got the thing down about 80%. They've kind of tied the two together exactly like you and I are talking about. I think that the part of the piece of the puzzle that they're missing is, and I used to use this Rodney Dangerfield I'm dating myself, but he's a comedian. He used to have a tagline, "I don't get no respect." Sugar doesn't get any respect that the emotional eaters, and even, it's crazy enough, the eating disorder folks who you would think we would have tangential relationships with, they believe that you can eat in moderation, right? Even the largest OA and the Weight Watchers and all of the big operations believe that you can eat a little bit, right? And then you can heal this process. But they don't ever give themselves just enough time, 30, 60, 90 days, where they are, completely abstinent, and then really get the juice of their beautiful body, the real flow of their emotions doesn't come back or heal up or whatever. And they're just like on the quote unquote cheat day, or the day where they said it's okay and this is the day that I can moderate. They don't get this time period where just that gap, just a time, look, I know, and and I think you're one of them, but I know 10 sugar educators that have a piece of cake on their birthday. They have a celebration with their kids on Halloween or whatever it is, if they're okay with it. But that wasn't before they reconfigured, rejiggered, re-understood, and really revisited their own body to understand how the sugar plays on their emotions, how it manipulates the dopamine, serotonin, norepinephrine, adrenal glands, everything. And when they understood it, and that when they took a taste of the product now, there is a different effect than it used to be, because before it was literally just fighting off withdrawals. It was not, I believe in 50 years, this is going to be an adult treat that you're going to need an ID to have, because it just, right. I mean, and you're not going to be able to give it to children. You're going to need an ID. Dr. Lustig is already preaching this, and I believe it, because finally people will have this space, and there'll be so many people that have, and we already, both of us, and all the people from the summit, the speakers from the summit, have so many students and people that have done this, that everything we're talking about is common knowledge within this small group of people who have already kind of gone through this process. So this is, I mean, all we got to do literally is just keep telling these stories, just keep, and then, someone will try it, someone will try it, someone will try it, and they'll have their own experience for their family and their friends,
It's powerful. And share this video too, right? Like, this is something powerful that you can do even watching this right now, is to share this and introduce this conversation. Even, it has to be the little, like, for me, it was kind of, I figured it out on my own because I didn't know there was support back 5 years ago when I went through this.
There wasn't much support. I've been doing this a long time. 5 years ago, there wasn't much support.
Yeah, and I didn't even know to look for it. But you make a good point there, and I just want to come back and touch on that. Like, yes, I mean, that's one of the differences in Mike and I. Like, I still eat sugar. I still do it on my terms. And it wasn't absolutely. And the reason that I can do that now with such confidence and trust in my body is because I have done the deep work. I have done the deep foundational work. And it just, emotions is just a piece of it, Mike. Like, the personal growth and the work that I've done for myself over the last 5 years, and really uncovering my true identity and reshaping my whole belief system, and like all of this stuff that is really foundational work that allows me to now have that healthy relationship with sugar. And it allows me to feel in control and to be able to choose when I want, and understand, when is more than enough, and not to use it. Like, I don't use sugar for any reason other than yeah, I want to have a glass of wine tonight, or today I'm going to, actually yesterday I made scones. I made pumpkin scones with very little sugar, and I was like, I'm going to do this because I want to, right? Like there's no attachment, there's no reason, there's no, and for me that's the freedom piece. And also, knowing when to stop. I didn't eat all the scones yesterday like I would have back in the day, right? I had one
Right.
and like I'm good. So it's because I've done this deeper work and I've done it for 5 years
believe
and
that
ongoing.
for sure.
So that's a good reminder. I'm glad you kind of pointed that out.
I'm gonna make a confession here that is gonna be like land or what, I don't know, like a big confession and a big announcement here. And this has happened. Here's a story. So I grew up. A lot of people know that I've been sober for 35 years, and that I came up as a straight abstinence guy. I mean, it's black and it was white, right? And I thought that long way about sugar too. I started to soften during the opioid crisis, where there was like, you had to be alive to recover. So Suboxone, and not methadone, but Suboxone and some of these other things where it could bridge you into finally getting recovery. You had to be alive. And after working with thousands of people in the group and in the stuff, I have come to believe that some people can use sugar after they do the work. Just like you. I mean, I'm like, and that I never thought that would happen. I genuinely believe that. But what I've found is that there's a lot of people just like me that when we use it, we spend the next day a little down, a little depressed. Yeah. I sweat at night. I sweat it out at night, like whatever. There's a lot of things that I just don't have time for. And I only discovered these through accidental ingestations, like in a salad dressing or something, right? Yeah. And then I realized, and I get stoned. I mean, I get buzzed out. I'm going,
I'd love to see that, by the way. I think we'd all love to see that.
Yeah, right. I'm like all buzzed up, right? But I never, like when I can feel it coming on, like in a restaurant, I can feel it coming on. The lights are like, you had 2 martinis, right? The lights are a little brighter and the conversation's very good, Yeah. And so I go with it. If it happens by accident, when I beg the chef to please tell me what's in it, and he says, oh, no sugar. Yeah. Anyway, when it happens, and then I realize that I'm headed for a crash, and I'm also headed to be starving again, because I can eat the best dinner in the world, and then 2 hours later, I'm starving again because my body wants more. And then the next day, I'm a little blue, a little down. Yeah. So I just don't want to do it, if I don't have to. So that's amazing. But I do believe that there are people like you, and like I call them a little bit normies, that just overused. They overused for a long time, and now they just need to recalibrate their body and they'll be fine.
Yeah. And I love that. I just want to, shout out to you sharing that, Mike, because it's such a testament to the truth that, and I think important for everybody to hear, that you and I are still both learning. Yeah. We're always learning, and I think one of the best things any of us can do, and why we put on this summit, is to stay open-minded. Right. I have no doubt that in 5 years, I'm going to believe different things too. And I'm going to see things maybe a bit differently. So I think it's so important. And I love that you're doing that, Mike. You're staying open to seeing, other things, or maybe there's other ways of doing things, or maybe there is, and changing our perspectives. And I think as humans, we have the right to do that. And I think none of us ever really know truth. Like, truth doesn't exist.
You have hit the nail on the head. If that attitude pervades someone who comes to this work, they succeed, because they look at it as an experiment, a growth experiment of their own body, their own psyche, their own personal development, and they're willing to embrace. I love this saying, let the information light on you. Okay, they have the information come to them. They meet with people online or in person. They meet with people who are doing this and say, let's see how this is. Let's check it out. Let's do it. Let's buy into that fantasy of the possibility of less or no sugar in my life for a period of time and see what the results are. The truth is in the telling of when they try either alone or, even where they read all the books in the world, but they don't have a person or persons that they can kibitz about, or what's that word? They can ruminate about, they can like commiserate about, and someone else, because this is not really like common knowledge in the society. It's also not commonly accepted, and usually not even commonly accepted in the person's own house. They're usually the only person in the house doing it, right? And they got the kids and they got the spouse, and they're like, you know, they got to have different meals or different, you know, thought processes. So you need to talk to somebody about it.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
totally. Oh, this is so powerful. I hope this is being really supportive.
Fun. Yeah.
And just a reminder, everyone, I know we're posting this not live, and you're going to get this in a minute. But we're still watching the comments below. So please
ask questions.
Your comments, your love, questions. So last week I noticed, and this is a good tie-in before we wrap up, Mike. Last week I noticed some questions that came through on our live video that for some reason I didn't see. I'm trying to dual screen it here. I'm trying to keep an eye on things, but I missed them. So I wanted to kind of answer those questions now. And we'll do that going forward. If any questions come in after these videos, like I'll keep track of it. I'm the organizer here. I'll keep track of it on the spreadsheet, and we'll make sure that you get your answers. So Sandy Reynolds, and maybe we can just go through these really quick, Mike, but Sandy Reynolds, thank you for your question. She says, interested in seeing if you could address the cycle of bad habits. I find I want to sneak a treat when no one is looking, and I don't want to go back to that. So yeah, what are your 2 bits on bad cycles and the old sneak a treat trick? Ooh, that was a mouthful.
It's like, who are this is going to sound harsh. I hope it doesn't, but who are you kidding? It's like, I think that personal development is not like what you do when I think what is the saying? You do it when no one's looking, you know, how do you act when no one's looking? It's like the only person you have to be to help grow, the only relationship that you're really responsible for is growing your relationship with yourself. And that being able to keep I say this all the time, being able to keep a promise to yourself, especially around sugar, because it's so powerful. You said it early on that we didn't do anything wrong. We got addicted by a group of people in the tobacco industry who bought up all the food stuff and realized how this worked, how the body worked, how the mind worked, how the brain worked. And then they came out with a bunch of products. And so it's not your fault, but it is your responsibility to turn it around and change. And so, like, think of just being kind to yourself. I'm not looking to like chastise you in any way, Debbie. Is that what her name?
Sandy.
It's just, what is it?
Sandy,
sorry. I'm not, but that little Zen practice of being truthful and honest with yourself about it, that begets more growth than, you know, anybody else in your world knowing it. So be kind to yourself, be honest with yourself. Yeah.
Love it. Thanks, Mike. Yeah. And Sandy, for my 2 bits, like what's coming up for me, you know, obviously this is a bigger conversation, but what I've seen is like our bad habits or patterns that we're running are literally just a reflection of what's going on the inside. And this is kind of what Mike is saying, right? Like really this relationship we have with ourselves. Everything. And it's funny, I just wrote a blog post about that this week because I had yet another client email me and say, wow, I'm surprised we're not talking about food during our coaching sessions.
Right.
No, because this has nothing to do with food. Our habits, our patterns around food are just a direct result of our relationship with ourselves. And if you haven't already read the book, Women, Food, and God, it's not just for women, but it is specific for women. That one, I don't know, Mike, if you read it, that one really sums up exactly what I'm talking about here.
Is that Janine Roth?
It is, yeah.
She's
love
good,
that
man.
book.
She's really good.
So yeah, so read that one if you haven't.
She helped me be more accepting, by the way.
Amazing. Yeah, she's incredible. So that was a book that kind of sums up kind of what I'm saying there. But it is this underlying piece. And what comes up for me right away, Sandy, in your question, and I hope you're open to this, you know, deep stuff. But this whole sneaking a treat, this whole, kind of taboo piece around it, I have the sense that there's some sort of shame or unworthiness issue, you know, beliefs there at the base for you. There's usually, that sort of sneaky attitude. There's definite shame there. There's also, usually things going on around, why are you wanting to stay hidden, right? Why are you hiding it? Why, is this something that you're not ready to just talk about or open up about, and what's actually going on for you there in those moments. And I'd encourage you to check in, when you find yourself sneaking a treat, right? Who are you afraid is going to find out, right? What are you afraid they're going to think about you? Oftentimes it's like, okay, well, it's because I don't want to, look this way in someone else's eyes, right? What stories are you telling yourself? And what's coming up for you in those moments around thoughts about yourself, right? What are you telling yourself about you in those moments? Well, I'm a horrible person. I'm addicted to sugar. I'm so ashamed. I'm never going to get out of this. Like, what stories are coming up for you? And even that, just building that awareness in there. And I mean, this is just scratching the surface, obviously, of what's actually going on there.
Mm.
And I know we didn't talk about this, and Mike, I would love to dive into this next time, but this piece on identity, I think this is a big one for all of us. It's like, when we identify with being, this lost, misunderstood little girl or person, right? These patterns start coming out. And this sneaking a treat one I can really relate to. That was my mom, by the way, all growing up. That was my thing as well. Like she always had a little secret candy drawer. There was a lot of shame and guilt around that. Because she knew that she had a problem, but she couldn't stop, right? She didn't know how to get help or how to, so that's what I had exemplified for me. And I noticed those patterns kind of come out in me. And luckily I was able to stop that. One of the biggest things you can do is eat a chocolate bar in public and and listen to the internal dialogue that comes out, right? And what kind of stories you're telling yourself around that. So that would be my kind of 2 bits for you, Sandy. Hope that's helpful.
I love that answer. And I really want to add one last thing is that this is kind of deep and it takes a little bit of research for you maybe, but I'm going to kind of lay it out real quick is that, and it bases around this construct that shame is the payoff. Now think about that deeply for a second, Sandy, because we are used to a certain level of self-esteem, talking to ourselves, how we talk to ourselves. And when we get real positive things going, we almost hit a ceiling, like a glass ceiling. Like we can't handle that much goodness. And now sounds counterintuitive, but we need to go back to what we're used to. The old kind of feelings that were normal, kind of normalized in our lives. And that's shame. When you have that sneak is like that, what you're looking for. You're not looking for the sweet treat. You're looking for a little hit of shame. I know that sounds crazy. And why would somebody do that? But when you start to process it out, it's very common and very true. So take a look for that and just be with it. Be with the okayness of that. And I hate the saying that you're good because you're not any different or any better. But be with the feeling, the better feeling, the elevated feeling of accomplishment and feeling good physically because of this stuff. So very important. It's a, like you said, it's like a 3-hour webinar, but it's an important process, part of the process.
Yeah. Thanks for bringing that up, Mike. That's such a powerful mindset shift that I think a lot of people will have to sit with for a little bit, but it's so true. Like every time we engage in a bad habit or eat a bad food, that we know isn't good for us, we're getting something from that.
There is a payoff. Yeah, there's a payoff.
So Sandy, even if it's not shame or anyone watching, asking yourself, this is one of the first questions when we start diving into a relationship with food, my clients, like, what are you getting from that food? What are you getting when you eat? Are you getting like a hit of joy? Are you feeling connected? Are you getting that little piece of shame that you need to kind of make you feel human and bring you back down? What are you actually getting from that? I mean, just doing that for a week, paying attention every time you eat, what are you getting from it? You're going to learn a lot about yourself. So, okay, let's dive into the next question here. This is another big one, but hopefully we can do it quick. So Tom, thanks Tom for asking this. I saw you posted a couple times. I don't know why I didn't see this question. So Tom's asking, what do you see the role of K-12 schools is in teaching the harm of processed foods? Yeah, where do we start, right?
Right. Wow. Well, I'll start with we're recruiting this gentleman, and I think it's fair to give him a plug. His name is Dr. Michael Goran, Goran. He just came out with a book called Sugar Proof, and it's I think Nicole Avena. Well, wrote the foreword or something, but basically, I mean, the fastest growing thing we've ever done online is our little group, Sugar Free Kids, and I believe that it's the next generation. It's every what you're asking is a societal shift that is, we're Dr. Lustig says we're 8 years into a 30-year tectonic shift, like
Mm-hmm.
seatbelts in cars, smoking in public places, drinking and driving, condoms in bathrooms, things where science says one thing and society and evolutionary practices said another. And now we have to contend with what the reality is, the science. And the reality is, and many people know that I raised 2 sugar-free kids from the womb until they were 6 years old. And it's like, I believe with all my heart that it's a thing worth fighting for. And I have never been, I love Dr. Lustig and that he got a law degree in his 50s to understand policy and what's going on with the government and stuff. But I think policy is part of it, but that's not our fight or my fight or my part of it. Mine is the grassroots up, like teaching, like we're doing right now, and educating folks and letting folks know and figure it out how they have sugar-free pregnancies, or they have sugar-free children, or they sugar-proof their children or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think it could, I know this sounds grandiose a little bit, maybe with all that's going on in the world, but if you look at the childhood obesity rate, if you look at the exporting of the American childhood obesity all around the world, and the fact that in most societies, just like the United States, a third of people are overweight, or 2/3 of people are overweight, and a third of the entire population. In America, that's 100 million people. It starts with that generation, and this evolved in only 40 years. So look, where do we fix this? Yes, the work that we're talking about individually, great, but we fix it both at a policy level, top down, government and schools, and a grassroots. Like if you're interested, Tom, reach out, man. I'm here, and this is one of the biggest things in my life. It's like what I've dedicated my life to do, to figure out how do we change, how do we move a cultural mountain of sugar into the idea that maybe we can't give it to children until they're older. Maybe that they develop habits, they get bad health and things happen, they become obese. And if that's the case, then get in the game with us, man. Danny and I are just foot soldiers in this game. We're just, there's hundreds of us now that got programs and write books and this, that, and the other. And it's just the beginning. So if you want to play, let's jump in with us. The water's fine, and we'd support you in any way we can. But it's a great question and a great and admirable thing to think about.
Such a big one. Yeah. And Mike, you made so many good points there. I'll just give my 2 bits. Like what comes up from first for me, it's like the 3 most taboo things to talk about in our society: money, sex, and like our connection, overeating, food, health. Like these are like the most taboo things. And it all starts because we're not taught that they're okay to talk about and they're okay to learn about in school, right? Like this has to start in school. We have to know that it's okay to talk about money and to learn and talk about healthy sex and to talk about, our relationship with food or issues that we're having with food, right? Until, we can really open that up on a societal level, like we're always going to be, kind of hiding in shame with all of these things, right? And that's not okay, I think. And this is what Mike and I are doing, at least on the food part. Who knows, maybe one day we'll talk about finances and sex, but I don't know, maybe not. But they all tie into sugar at some point. Everything ties into this relationship with sugar. But we have to absolutely start in school, and we have to, I'm going to say it, get rid of that stupid food pyramid. I'm going out there and saying, like, oh my gosh, I know we have different one than in the States, but it's no better. And they just updated it like last year or 2, and it's just total anyway. So
crap.
This what you're saying, Mike, it's this policy stuff, and it's so frustrating for us as foot soldiers. Like, takes so long to change, like policy to change. And the truth of the matter is, there's billion-dollar industries fighting against it, wanting, the food pyramid to be built off of bread, right? Like wanting it to be built off of bread and dairy, because that's how they make money. And it's really unfortunate, the politics involved in it all. But we need to do our own research, and we need to be educating our children. I mean, I think as adults, I don't work with kids specifically, and I love that you do, Mike, but I work with women who have children, and I find that that's the way to kind of pass that down so they can learn from themselves and then start setting these better examples for their kids. But if this started in school, oh my goodness, like it just, everything would change. Like if we could actually infiltrate and make the school system teach proper, but this is a problem with that, right? Because if they're going to teach about, processed foods, and they're going to teach about nutrition, who are they going to bring in to do that? Is it going to be somebody coming in to preach the food pyramid, which is essentially built from industry and handed down through the governments? Or are they going to bring in an actual holistic nutritionist, or someone who isn't being paid by anybody, or has, real knowledge about, whole foods and how the body works? So it's a long-term game, and we all have to, I think the more of us who speak up about it, and if any parents watching, the more you demand these things from your school system, I think we can have an impact over time. We might just have to be a little bit patient in this, but no doubt it has to start at home and in school, for kids, right? All these things.
Yeah, that's it. It's a great, very wide-ranging question, and it's going to take time. But I mean, I'm a big fan. I don't know if you've ever heard this quote. I like it. How do we achieve our 10-year goals in 6 months? I love that quote. So if it's a combination of grassroots and policy. It is, and schools are big with the policy, because there's so many people that got to be asked to make it one decision. But this, let me tell you, I'll go on record saying this decision to put vending machines in schools to make money is crazy talk.
Oh my gosh.
Crazy talk.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Oh, that's a whole webinar for another day.
It is. The whole thing is like it's like literally an entire organization. So I was like,
yeah. But thanks for asking, Tom, and just allowing us to kind of share our bits on that.
Make sure we I'll message Tom and make sure he gets this answer.
Yeah, I'll tag them actually below the video. Let's see how that works. Hopefully you guys get this. Yeah, but so let's sort of wrap things up here. I think we could go for hours, right? But
we went past our thing, but I knew this was going to happen. But.
I know it's. I mean, we have so much passion. Obviously, there's so many topics we want to bring to you, and we're just so excited. Quick little update. And actually, we should start with actual life updates before in the beginning of these. But we're both just diving in head first, starting prepping for the next Quit Sugar Summit. So coming to you early next year. So very soon. Just stay tuned for more details on that. But I just want to keep you in the loop. We're already filming some interviews and really. Having some amazing conversations with some experts that are going to be coming to you this year. We've got a couple really new, new to us, new to the Quit Sugar Summit, not new to the industry, coming your way. So this is going to be, I mean, every year the summit gets bigger and more powerful and more impactful. So it's so exciting to be involved in it. I'm really grateful you brought me in last year, and I can't wait for another one. So I hope you guys are excited too.
Yeah, and, no, I'm excited. I like you said, I mean, I just did it originally so I could talk to all these folks, and the caliber and everybody keeps. I mean, people keep coming out with books, and I'm like, okay, I can talk to that guy, and the folks seem to like it, and it's really, it's cool that we're reaching some kind of tipping point. I don't know if it's. I think that the tipping point for societal change for the tobacco stuff was the litigation, literally $1 trillion advertising campaign that happened over a 3 or 4 year period, where the states were suing the big companies, and it was in the news every single day, and then the cigarette smoking went way down. So hopefully these types of events and this type of grassroots information getting out there will be a tipping point, and it'll be, I don't know what it'll be, but we need to be ready, because there'll be a lot of people flooding to Quit Sugar movement. They'll be trying to quit, and they'll find that it's not quite as easy as they thought it would be.
Well, and this is I don't want to start a new conversation, but last comment, this is the truth, is that most people don't get off of sugar because it takes work. There's no quick fix. There's no little blue pill. There's no shake that you can have that's going to heal your relationship with food. Right. You have to do the deep work, and it's not scary. It doesn't have to be hard, especially when you're in a great community. I know both Mike and I have amazing, communities and amazing support systems it can be fun learning about yourself and doing all this deeper work. So
It
doesn't
is
have to be a
fun.
big job, but it takes time. It takes time, and it is so worth it. You know, after the first couple months, right, you're just sailing and loving it and learning and growing. And it's just, I'm addicted. Now my addiction is learning more about myself and personal growth. Like, I think that I'm okay with that addiction. Okay, that's a wrap. Let's leave it at that. So just a reminder, we love to hear from you. So post your questions below, comments. We'll bring them to the next video, and we'll both be here. Obviously, reach out, send a message to this page, which Mike manages the inbox there, and he'll get back to you if you want to, you know, really get involved or you know, support in any other way. We're more than willing and excited to obviously band all of us together and be a tribe and speak up and continue the momentum of this movement. So thank you for watching this. Thank you for being here. And Mike and I'll see you again in 2 weeks. Maybe by then I'll have a kitchen.
All right, gang. Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure. Hope you got something out of this.